Welcome to 8 Stories, the entertaining, uplifting, and informative podcast for people who are passionate about enriching the multifamily experience. I'm your host, Sharon Cauthen, and together, let's take an enlightening journey across the multifamily landscape, sharing innovative ideas and heartfelt stories from communities nationwide. 8 Stories is brought to you by Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. Now, let's jump into today's stories. Hello, welcome to another episode of 8 Stories. I'm your host, Sharon Cauthen. Before we get started, please, I know you hear it all the time, but do just take a second and hit the like button and subscribe. You'll get tons of content from our channel and really help grow our community. And I hope that you'll find a lot of value in that community. So today we're going to talk about something that really is common to us all. Everyone does it at some time or another, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But I really want to encourage you to make this an intentional part of your practice. And that is engaging in a look back of your life. If you create intentional opportunities to reflect on pivotal moments and defining stories that shaped who you are today, it's really critical to your current and future growth. Reflection offers a chance to pause, rewind, and take stock of where we've been and how we've grown. I have my trusty cup of water today because if you've been around very long, then you know I have a dry mouth and I just have to take a sip of water. I hope it doesn't bother people with sensitive ears. But I invite you to join me on this reflective journey. We'll look back on the moments that mattered, the lessons that we learned, and the lives that we've touched. Hey, you may not know this, or maybe you do, but I am an amateur potter, and that is that I make things with clay. And it's a craft that I've been working on for a solid 4 years now. And I try to diligently improve and to remain curious about other skills that I could add to my repertoire. And I constantly am consuming content in one form or another that inspires me to apply it to my craft. I never considered myself to be artistic. But when my hands are in the clay, it feels therapeutic. I feel parts of my life story begin to influence the things that I'm creating. It seems to me that as we go through life, we don't always realize how much our experiences shape us until we really deeply consider the unique pathways that fed our development. Some of the things that I've made a statue, or not a statue, a sculpture of a middle-aged woman. And it's not a stretch to say that she is me in pottery form. 2 Christmases ago, I made an entire set of my family members as reimagined as gnomes. So each gnome is bedecked with things that are unique to that family, that individual. And so just those are some of the fun projects. And then there are others that just, every one of them give me a chance to grow, a chance to add some new skills and a chance to experience some successes. And pottery is full of opportunities to have catastrophic failure. Your pottery is not safe until it's been through every process and it's back home, hopefully in a safe space at your house. I have had heartbreaking crushes of pottery that I was so proud of, that just one small mistake and wham, it's all gone. So it's really a great practice if you want to learn to grow and to explore your skills, and also to learn to grow through incredible disappointment and to work with some pretty incredible people. Now, I said earlier that I never considered myself to be artistic, and I talk about how early childhood really influences who we are as adults today. And in my family of origin, there were 5 kids, and each one of us was sort of labeled as what skill we had. That's how it felt to me as kid number 4. I was not the artist. My older sister was the artist, and she is an artist. Like, she's very talented. I would take nothing away from her skill or her talent, but it meant that by definition or by comparison, I didn't reach the level of artist. And I had been creating pottery for a few years when my instructor said, Sharon, if you create art, then you are an artist. And I have started to give myself credit for that title. I am a potter, and I am an artist. You don't have to sell your pieces in some big gallery or museum in order to be considered an artist. Speaking of art and pottery, when I reflect back on my life, it kind of feels like, have you ever seen a giant mosaic where there's all these different pieces, tiny pieces that work together almost like a tapestry? They're pieces of tile that come together to tell your life story. And the people who make intricate mosaics, I bow down, man, they are geniuses. It is really hard work. It's a very special skill, but you can see the joy and pain of their lives woven into the story to create this really beautiful mosaic. I've never attempted it myself, and maybe one day I will. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if I too could sort of try to tell my story through that art form. But let's pause for a minute. I'd ask you to think about some of your big highlights in your life, like the first time you felt truly independent, or when you made a decision that really altered your life's path. Maybe you moved to a new city, or you changed careers. That's a really huge one. Whenever you step out of something you know that you can do into something that you don't have that assurity, but you're stepping out in faith and belief in yourself. Or maybe it's something personal, like a relationship, falling in love, falling out of love, losing someone close, starting your family. There's so many big moments in life. And if you take the time to really think about those, you can draw your own mosaic of your life. But each of those moments tells you a story. It tells your story. And it's a lesson, and perhaps even a bit of wisdom can be found in those stories. Now, when I'm not making pottery, I really love to read, and I really especially enjoy reading memoirs and autobiographies. I love to hear people's stories in their own words. And for Christmas one year, my children gifted me with something called the Storyworth Project. And every week the website would email me a question. And sometimes my children had drafted the questions, and in other cases, the website offered one up. Or you could go select your own. But nevertheless, over the course of a year, I responded to each of those questions. And by the time I was done, I did it in the most complete way I could, while still keeping it PG enough for, public consumption. I really tried to answer the questions as thoroughly as I could. And one of the real things I never expected to come from this was, as I encountered again and again the frailty of my own human memory, where I would run smack dab into, I don't have any idea about this subject, it gave me the chance to reach out to my siblings to get their take on things, or to reach out to my father and ask what he still remembered. And that was a gift beyond the gift. The Storyworth Project was the first gift, and the chance to engage with my family in such an intentional way about our shared past, that was a gift and beyond the original gift, and I'm grateful for it. So because of that year-long project, which was finalized in a hardbound book, I had that opportunity to reconsider my life through this imperfect human memory. Writing my responses to each of those questions was a substantial project. And I hope that my children and my grandchildren will know a bit more about me and about our shared history when they read the book. I know that I learned a lot more about me in the process. When I look back on some of my first steps into adulthood, I remember the uncertainty, the doubt, and the fear of failure when I left our one red light town, and it is still a one red light town. When I left that town to move to downtown Atlanta for college at just 17 years old, that was as big a culture shock as I could have had. And I met so many lovely people who really helped me to begin to engage with the world in a more profound way, and meeting people from all over the world. And I'm so grateful for those experiences. I can remember the excitement, the freedom, the incredible people I met, my great roommate, and also some of just silly beliefs that needed to be reconsidered, and thankfully were. But if a time warp was available, when I look back on the things I wish I'd been warned about, and listen, everyone will experience this at some time or another. And yes, it's very personal to me right now, but bear with me. If I were to reach out to younger Sharon, say at 20 years old, I would encourage her to know that there's a lot of pain ahead and that it will eventually be okay. Forever feels impossible, but it's okay to fall apart when you need to. See, what I didn't know at 20 was that my mother would die when I was 21. After a non-event, when people tell you that all surgeries are serious, this was a surgery that never should have been considered risky in any way. And yet she is one of the people who makes up the statistic. And my mom, she was who I wanted to be. Like, she was my true north, and she was gone, and nothing prepared me for that. All the people I'd lost before that were really old. She was only 47, and I felt like I was still a kid. And yet she was gone. And that learning that forever is a very long time was an integral part of that. Now, as many of you know, my son Jack died 10 months ago at the very young age of 38. And the jagged hole in my heart is hard to describe. I know that I'll grieve his loss forever, but even so, I've had practice with forever. Yeah, I'd been there before. Amidst the indescribable pain of losing them, I am so comforted in knowing that they knew that I loved them. If there is any silver lining to this horrible storm cloud, it's that I know in my marrow that all of my people know that I love them. I show up for my people, and they all know that I love them. So for me, when I had these really impossible losses, there was some consolation in that. So I won't belabor that point any longer than I need to, but let's shift the focus and ask you, what moments from your past still stand out to you, almost like they happened yesterday? Maybe it's a moment of great achievement, like graduating or landing your dream job or starting a family. Those landmark moments are almost universally definitive. Or perhaps it's a challenge you overcame, a time when life knocked you down, but you found a way to stand up again. Those hard times, those moments when we feel like we're at our lowest, can teach us the most about our strength. But in my experience, the hard times can be very hard. And bouncing back is a shortcut response to what can be a pretty long process. It can take, for example, it could take ages to get out of debt, or to pay off your student loan, or to land a dream job in a poor market, to find a partner, a life partner, to create a family. All those things don't happen in the blink of an eye, even though most of those are pretty good. You want to get out of debt, but most of the time that you can't do that in one fell swoop motion. So the bouncing back if everyone around you is bouncing back and you still feel like you're clawing your way in the desert, it's okay. You don't need to measure your responsiveness by the happiness and quick growth that you think others are having all around you, because everyone is really posting their best self online, and that includes on business websites like LinkedIn. People are sharing their best and highest moments. They're not always telling you just the pain that they may be living in beyond who's going to get the W today. Can you remember a time when the version of you, let me start over. Can you remember a time when a version of you was faced with impossible challenges? What about now? The person you are today, what's different? What did you learn from those impossible challenges? One of the most eye-opening lessons for me is that it's okay to fail. I used to conflate failure with shame, and I avoided it more than anything. And I realize now that some of my greatest failures led to my greatest growth. They opened doors I didn't even know existed. I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you if it weren't for the times I stumbled. The road to get to now is crooked. It's messy. And success, that's air quotes for those of you listening, success is different for every person. It is absolutely okay if you don't value or define success in the same way as someone else does. I want to say that again because it's really important. It is okay if you don't define success in the same way as someone else does. That's a really important concept to embrace. All right, I'm going to switch subjects a little bit. Let's think about your dreams. When you were younger and you were dreaming about what you wanted for your life and what you would be when you grew up, and later you learned that growing up is something that you keep doing again and again and again. But what were your dreams? Maybe some of them came true. Maybe you are living the life that you dreamed and hoped for, but maybe some didn't. And that's okay. Our dreams evolve just like we do. And sometimes the dreams we let go of make space for the new opportunities that we hadn't even considered. Because the dreams that we dreamed before were dreamt by a younger version of ourselves who didn't have the benefit of all the experiences that you've had since that time. So it's really okay and even encouraged that your dreams are going to modify through the years as you grow and change. Sometimes looking back on your life is bittersweet. I know it is for me. It's a mixture of pride and nostalgia and, I don't know, pride, yes. Nostalgia, yes. And it's also a little bit of regret. That was the word that it was hard for me to get out just then. Because when you look back on your life and you're like, yes, I did that thing really great. Oh, I remember that was really special. And then, boy, do I regret that decision or that choice. And some of my choices in my life have been regrettable. And I'm willing to bet that you've probably had a few regrettable decisions too. But no matter how the story of your life has unfolded so far, there's something beautiful in all of it. Even the parts that didn't go as planned, especially the parts that didn't go as planned, because every chapter has meaning and purpose. What about you? If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? Maybe you'd offer advice, maybe comfort. Maybe you'd tell your younger self that everything will work out, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. Or maybe you'd just listen. Our younger selves don't often get the chance to be heard. For me, I'd tell young Sharon to be patient. Life has a way of working things out, even if it takes time. I'd tell her to slow down and watch carefully for the green flags and the red ones. Matthew McConaughey has a memoir called Green Lights. And it's the story of his life and how, in even impossible situations, he seemed to catch some green lights that got him to the next step. Well, in my life, I had a tendency to look at the red flags and think that I could somehow fix that situation. And so it has been a process through the years for me to try to look for the green flags and to be very aware that the red flags are there for a purpose and that I should not run headlong into a bunch of red flags. It is not a parade. I might slip my younger self a note saying everything will not be easy, but it will be worth it. And I would certainly tell her that she is worth the wait. As we bring this episode to a close, I encourage you to take a moment today to reflect. Think about where you've been and how far you've come. Your life is a collection of stories. some big and some small, but each one matters, and you are the author of yours. Thanks for joining me today on 8 Stories. I hope this topic has inspired you to reflect on your own journey with gratitude and grace. Now, once again, don't forget to subscribe, and please share your thoughts with the community below, because we grow when we learn from each other. I'd love to know some of the pivotal moments in your life and how they shaped who you are today. Until next time, remember that every story, whether simple or complex, is worth telling. I'll see you soon on another episode of 8 Stories. Until then, stay curious, stay reflective, and most importantly, stay open to your next chapter. Until next time. Thank you for tuning in to 8 Stories. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget, this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living.